The Sports Source is brought to you by Fast Frame, with exciting Vol sports prints now available.
This is The Sports Source, presented by Bill Hotz and Associates, and by Renewal by Anderson, with your host, John Pennington.
Good Sunday morning, good 2018 to you. We appreciate you joining us for the Sports Source, presented by Bill Hotz and Associates today. We got a packed show. We got Tennessee, Kentucky to break down. We got Tennessee, Vanderbilt to preview. We've got Tennessee's path to the NCAA tournament as we unveil our giant wall of hoops on the show. We've also got football, recruiting, staff hires, Galden, Jones, Dooley, Fulmer, Gruden, lots of news. You got an NCAA title game coming up on Monday. And we got 1 hour to cover it. So let's kick off. First segment of this show brought to you by Bill Hotz and Associates. If you've been injured in an accident by a careless driver, it could mean huge medical bills, even time off from work. Bill Hotz and Associates has spent more than 30 years protecting accident victims from worst case scenarios. Memorize that website you see right there, folks. Bill Hotz and Associates. We appreciate them for bringing you the Sports Source. All right, want to welcome in the first round of panelists here. We have Mr. Mark Pankratz, former Vol staff member, coming in to talk Tennessee basketball with us. We have Jimmy Himes, Josh Ward, both these guys from WNML, and then their longtime sports writer Mike Strange, recently going into the Tennessee Sports Writers Hall of Fame, inducted or elected. But you're also going to start appearing in
the Shopper News. I'm returning to the News Sentinel in the form of the Shopper News that's inserted on Wednesdays.
Just when you think you're out, they pull you back in. Mike Strange. Okay, good deal. Tennessee stages a big second-half rally yesterday against Kentucky. Good comeback win against the number 17 Wildcats, 76-65. Tennessee's 7th win in its last 11 home games against Kentucky. Mark, one knock on this team. They blew 2 leads so far this year in the closing seconds. And everyone said this team can't close anybody out. They lose every game. They closed out a decent team last night. We don't know how good Kentucky's going to be. They got athletes, but they closed out Kentucky last night.
They did, and there was a lot of positives to take away from that game. I thought it was a tale of two halves. Not just from energy and effort, but from some of our adjustments. Against the zone in the first half, the ball got sticky. We didn't move the basketball. Second half, we really moved the ball against their zone. Barnes switched up defenses a little bit. He went some zone. Guys like James Daniel, I thought he was a significant part of the second half. Grant Williams started making quicker moves to go against their length. And so there were adjustments made that were encouraging. But I do think, to your point, how good is Kentucky this year? They haven't really played a great schedule. Maybe Arkansas and Auburn are just better teams this year, but I think a lot of that win was about what Tennessee did down the stretch.
Mike, I was following you on Twitter last night, and one of the things I'll let you go, make whatever point you're going to make, but I also want you to touch on energy, because the energy level between first half and second half was night and day.
Yeah, and apparently Ron Slay was at the game and got up in Grant Williams' face right before the second half started, and you saw a very energized, very different Grant Williams in the second half. Yeah. But I want to you mentioned James Daniel, Mark did. James Daniel and Lamonte Turner played nearly the entire second half at guard, and I thought they really, even though their stats weren't that great, they really settled things down. And you also saw John Fulkerson, I thought, play his best game, in more than a year. Yeah.
He did a good job when they put him at the foul line, when they dished it to him, whether he scored a time or two or made nice passes inside. That was a nice move. He played a nice role against that zone.
First half, I got to admit, I was sitting there last night thinking, oh gosh, we're going to be talking about an 0-3 start in the SEC. Huge win, just to get off, because one, if you start 0-3 and your next game is at Vanderbilt, and then you got A&M, okay, that doesn't look real pretty starting out. What does that do for your fan support? If you go 0-3, you're going to have the people. They were already at halftime last night, online, people calling for Rick Barnes' head. If you open 0-3, it's going to start to grumble. And also, what would that have done for the team's confidence? So I think getting that win against Kentucky, in hindsight, you may go back and say it's just another win, but I think it was a huge win, Josh, considering the circumstances.
Yeah, no doubt. And it was almost immediate in the start of the second half. Ron Slay gets the crowd fired up, gets Grant Williams fired up, and in less than 3 minutes into the second half, you had erased an 8-point deficit. And Admiral Schofield, Grant Williams, their energy, their rebounding was a big factor, and ball movement, that was a big part of breaking apart that zone defense. And two of Kentucky's key players didn't play much in the second half, in Gabriel and Washington. Tennessee took advantage of it.
Yeah, here's the deal with this team. We don't, as good as Grant Williams has been, we don't have an alpha dog type go-to guy that can go get a basket. We are at our best when, to Josh's what he was talking about, we're moving the basketball. Guys are getting involved. We're moving bodies, moving the ball quickly. Because what happens is not only then offensively are we getting better shots, but guys are more engaged defensively because now they're feeling the ball every once in a while. When we keep the ball on one side of the floor, we don't get as good as shots, and now you're coming down playing defense, and you're not as engaged at the defensive end. So I thought the ball movement was a big deal last night.
I thought that win was huge, too. I agree with you. It's as close to being a must-win as you can have without it being a must-win.
Right, yeah.
But I was also reminded of what Michael Jordan said, you're only as good as the last game-winning shot you hit. Tennessee closed that one out. They closed out Wake Forest. They closed out Purdue. But I'm still not confident in the next game if they're going to close that one out. It's like from game to game, will they be able to get it done? They did it against Kentucky, did it against North Carolina, did it against Arkansas. I just think it's going to be game to game as to whether they do it.
I want to throw out credit, as mentioned already, but Admiral Schofield with his effort last night. Grant Williams with 18 points, 8 rebounds. You expect that from Grant Williams. Schofield last night, 20 points, 9 rebounds. So the two of them, almost 40 points and almost 20 rebounds between the two of them. So good night for Williams and for Schofield.
23 assists on 25 baskets. If that's the recipe for us, is ball movement. 23 assists, 25 baskets, we get wins.
First time all year that Tennessee had won a game when their opponent shot 40% from the floor. They were 9-4. If you hold them to under 40, they were 9-0. Opponent goes over 40%, they were 0-4. That changed last night. Talk to me about Tennessee's defense. Again, well, you already mentioned the fact that they were more engaged because everybody's touching the ball, but your thoughts on defensively how they held up against Kentucky?
Well, I think Kentucky doesn't have guys that are what Tennessee's weakest at is defending, and that's guys that can drive it by you.
Right.
Auburn does, Arkansas does. Kentucky was much taller, leaner. They want to get the ball in the post, shoot over the top of you. And so I don't think we were exposed in the areas, but I just think we had better energy that second half.
And we put up numbers for those of you who didn't see it. You can go to sportsource.tv or our YouTube channel and go back and look. Third segment last week, we put up numbers showing what happens when Tennessee goes up against, guarding guards. That is the trouble spot, as Mark just mentioned. You can find that in our old episodes. You can find all of our archives there, sportsource.tv. When we come back, we're going to start talking some football, recruiting. There's some recruiting news, big news. Also, more comings and goings on that football staff. So come on back. We'll talk Tennessee football on the Sports Source.